Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, as I do a lot of days, but I have had some comments lately on Scotland, and it reminded me of a video clip that I found that I never made public, and I just think this is very fascinating. It comes from a time about 3,500 years ago. Scotland has a deep, rich, ancient history, and this is called the Broich Road Archaeological Site, and let me just try to zoom in here on the correct spot. But I just find this fascinating because this just shows how present cities are built on top of previous time, and it just gives you a hint on how these people treated their dead about 3,500 years ago. This is Melanie Johnson talking. This clip is about 15 minutes long. The total lecture is about a half hour long. I will leave the link to the full lecture below, and to Recording Archaeology, which makes their videos shareable, which I really appreciate. But this is the Broich Road Archaeological Site, and I just found this fascinating. And here you go, here's a lecture. I like my channel to be about a lot more than me just babbling. So here you go. Here's what they found at this site in Scotland by the city of Crieff. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.
Way back in 2012, Perth and Ross Heritage Trust requested a programme of archaeological work beginning with a trial trenching evaluation, and that work led to the discovery of a small cremation cemetery, which we then these red stars, some very nice finds of flint and bronze, and I'll talk a little bit about those later on. So the three cremation urns that we found, none of them were complete. You can see on this slide how shallow the surviving remains of the pit that the urn was sitting inside. The pots have lost their bases due to plough damage, so the rim of the vessel is down towards the bottom. The pots are inverted, so they're turned upside down before they're put inside the pit. All of the pots were cordoned urns, despite the fact that there was not very much of them left. So there's another example. You can see the two cordons on that one quite clearly running around the outside, but again you can see at the edge of the slide the depth of the topsoil covering the urns, and there's almost nothing left of the pit that pot was actually inside. One of the pots, we've done the analysis on the cremated remains. These all had cremations inside them. One of the pots contained two adults, possibly one female and one male. Another also contained two different people, a young adult and a juvenile, so that's probably early teens. And there were also some cremated bones from a young sheep or goat inside that pot with them. And the third urn actually contained three different individuals, a mature male, a possible female adult, and a juvenile, and again some cremated bones from a young sheep or goat. I should say at this point actually that the cremated remains, they're not really the way that we think of cremations these days. You actually get quite large pieces of bone, so you can work out the gender of the person, the health, the age, all of those things that go along with it. When I say possible female, possible male, it's obviously because the bones there's not enough diagnostic markers, and so you have to make assumptions based on the stature and the size of the person. So the unurned cremations, the ones just in pits, they primarily contain just a single individual, both males and females represented, but one further multiple burial was identified on the site, which had as many as 4 different people in it, at least one adult male and at least one child and one infant. So that's quite unusual. These are the drawings of the urns rolled out so that you can see the decoration that goes around the pots. All geometric, incised and impressed cord patterns, very typical of this period, very typical of these kinds of vessels. You can see only the upper part of the vessels survived in each case. The whole rim circumference was there, but the lower body of the pot and the base had completely gone. So these urns would be expected to date between about 1900 BC and 1500 BC. We lifted one of the urns out of the pit, and there's a copper alloy object was lying underneath. This wasn't the only copper alloy object that we found. 2 more cremations in pits had copper alloy objects associated with them. So this is it lying at the base of the pit. So it was probably at the top of the pot. Once the cremation had been put inside the pot, the copper alloy objects had been put in, and then the pot had been turned upside down, and that's why it's ended up underneath what effectively looked like underneath the urn at the base of the pit. So these objects are these, once they've been conserved. They're double-edged copper alloy razors, 3 of them in total. One of them is very damaged. The fat one on the slide is pretty much complete. The thin one has lost the outer edges of the blade. They are tanged, so we've got that little tang at the bottom for a handle. The rivet hole, you can see the rivet hole on the bottom there to attach to the handle. No evidence of that or handle surviving. Once they're being conserved, they're obviously, when they first come out of the ground, they're very dirty. It's very difficult to see any specifics. But the decoration on one of them could then be seen, and that's what the image is on the right-hand side. Incised lattice decoration all across both sides of it. From some of the other pits. This was rather nice. The guys on site, when they found this, were pretty excited. So this is the multiple burial that I told you about, the one with the 4 individuals in it. And this group of flint arrowheads was just sort of tucked in with the cremated remains, so that you can see the kind of white bone around it, which is the cremated bones. And these are them. There's actually 7 of them, and basically buried in a small cache, a little collection altogether. Flint, barbed and tanged arrowheads. Again, they're not burnt, so they didn't go through the pyre with the body, but were deliberately buried with these cremated remains. The arrowheads, you can probably see, they're slightly different in size, and they're also slightly different in quality, the quality of the finish. And Anne Clark is our lithic specialist, and she's of the opinion that they could actually have been made by 3 different people. There are sort of similarities between, pairs or groups of them that suggest that there might be 3 different hands. So this is the cemetery. Again, not a particularly large area, but quite a cluster of features in there. Got an awful lot more going on in here, and it was sort of a roughly circular layout. Here's the site plan, and you can see that circularity comes out on the plan an awful lot better. That linear feature down at the bottom you won't be able to see, but that's a cultivation furrow from relics, rig and furrow on the site, so no importance to what I'm going to talk about. The main components within this cemetery, there's quite a lot of different things happening. We had this one, which is a single urn cremation. We have 5 kists, stone kists, and then surrounding the whole thing we have these 6 large oval pits, and these contain scattered cremated bone in them. So there's an awful lot of human remains on this site. And then a few other sort of smaller pits and smaller features, some with cremations and some again without, some which are completely blank. Again, we had a cordoned urn. This one is huge, and again the base is lost. Again, you're only seeing the top sort of 6 inches of the vessel. The base is gone. Again, it's inverted. This one it's big. It's when they're complete. It's difficult enough moving them when there's that much left. But the thing would have probably been about that round and would have stood to this kind of height. They're big. They're heavy. And again, decorated with geometric patterns around the top. I'll just very quickly. I'm just going to kind of run through all of those and give you a view of what they all look like. This one didn't have any capstones surviving and had been plough damaged along one side of it. One of the side slabs had gone, so you can see that 3rd, 4th side of the kist. There's no side slab there. That's actually plough damage. There was a deposit of cremated bone in here, but no finds of any kind at all. Our second kist had a large capstone in place, this kind of trapezoidal shaped stone on the top, and inside was this very nice pot. Again, cremated bone inside the kist itself. Very little cremated bone inside the pot. This is, again has been excavated in the lab. Nothing particularly. A few scraps of cremated bone inside the pot, but it hasn't formed a receptacle. It's not been used for the cremated bone. It's simply been put in the kist alongside it. Nothing else. No other finds in there at the moment. Stuff may come out of the soil samples. We don't know that yet. This pot is a food vessel, so it's slightly earlier in date than the cordon urns. As Alison was talking about this morning. So I would expect this to date to kind of 2200 to about 1900 BC, so very slightly earlier than the cordon urns. The third kist didn't really look like a kist initially, it was just this big stone, and in a lot of other situations you wouldn't really particularly think twice about it, because we knew we had kists. We obviously had to lift that capstone. And underneath again was another kist. And this had 2 episodes of deposition inside. I don't think the kist was reopened and stuff was put in. I think it was deliberately that there were two deposits put inside that kist. There was cremated bone at the bottom, then this layer of cobbles, which is shown on this slide, and then more cremated bone put on top of that. So it'll be really interesting to find out who these individuals are, if it's the same person, for whatever reason, divided in half and separated, or if it's 2 different people, 3 different people, we don't know at the moment, but it could be a number of different individuals in there. Fourth kist, again, we weren't really expecting this to be a kist at all. It looked like a stone-filled pit, it didn't really look like anything else. It looked like, the oval pits around the outside, it didn't really look any different from any of those. But again, once the upper stones were removed, this had an absolutely massive capstone in there, gigantic capstone. Very nice, very circular pit. And on this slide you can just see the side slabs of the kist underneath. So obviously we had to get mechanical help to remove that because it was flipping huge. There was a void underneath. So the kist underneath wasn't completely full of soil. There was fresh air in there when we lifted the capstone, and again this stone-lined kist underneath. Inside this one again there was another pot. So this one was a bit squashed. It's not complete, unlike the other one. All the pieces are there, but it was broken in situ inside the kist, and again it's a food vessel, another food vessel, and again cremated human remains inside the kist, but not inside the pot, but no other finds in there with it. And then the final kist is the most spectacular of them, and this was roughly in the middle of the cemetery. Again, it was from the surface. It was a kind of a large stony pit. No capstone visible on the surface. You remove that first deposit and came down to this another massive capstone. The ranging rods in that photograph are 1 metre long, so it's over 1 metre in length and about 1 metre wide. Sitting on a layer of flat stones. So we removed the capstones. You have this layer of flat stones. Once these flat stones were removed, there was another capstone underneath, and that gives you an idea of the scale with the guy there removing part of that capstone. And so again, obviously, we removed that capstone, and again there was a void, and you can see under his feet. That's literally us lifting the parts of that capstone which was broken, and there was just a void underneath. Again, nothing, no soil, no infilling of any kind, and it was immediately obvious that there was cremated bone sitting on the bottom of the kist. So there it was. There's quite a large deposit of cremated bone sitting at the bottom of that kist, and that's how it was left. You know, because there was no soil infilling, it's very much a kind of it's a bit of a Tutankhamun moment when you kind of peel back the lid and suddenly there's, you know, it's exactly as it was left. What we're talking about 3,500 years ago. So incredibly exciting, really, really interesting. It sort of looked like there was two piles of bone. There's a slight sort of hint of separation into two piles. So again, once we know who these individuals are, I'm assuming there's more than one in here. Again, it may not be, but I'm kind of assuming. All right, okay, goodness. So this is rather, so that just gives you an idea of the size and scale of that kist, pretty huge. Very briefly, we'll go back to our site plan. That one in red is that central massive kist, and the four in yellow are the other kists. These are the stony pits, and we've also got this one which was full of charcoal. Pit pot or kist is the question. The answer is, who knows why the choices are made. Clearly some people are buried in pots, some people are buried in pits, some people are buried in kists. They have different types of objects associated with them. What that all means is kind of impossible to say. We have adult males, adult females, we have juveniles, we have children. There is no pattern as to, you know, certain types of people seem to be buried in certain types of ways.